Welcome to the Intimate Marriage Podcast, where I teach educated, successful couples how to have incredible, passionate relationships so that you can stop compromising and start feeling fully alive in your relationship. I'm Alexandra Stockwell, aka the Intimacy Doctor. I'm a physician, a relationship and intimacy coach, and I'm an intimate marriage expert. My husband and I have been married for 26 years. We have 4 children and full professional lives, and we've created an amazing marriage. I've shown hundreds of couples how to do so as well. So if you want to deepen your understanding of your own relationship and learn to access new heights of emotional, sensual, and erotic intimacy, you're in the right place. I will show you how. Now, let's dive in. I'm really excited to welcome Amber and Marx Success to the podcast. I have to say, before I say anything more, you two have the most awesome last name. I wonder if there are people who change their name to be like the two of you, to go around and say, I'm Mr. Success, I'm Mrs. Success. That's incredible. What a legacy you received.
Thank you so much.
I'm married into it.
And it comes with a lot of pressure. So, hopefully we can live up to it.
Is that true? It comes with a lot of pressure?
Yeah. 100%. You missed that jump shot growing up, and people are quick to make puns about your last name, and how that didn't work out for you, or any endeavor you undertake. You kind of have that little psyche built up about who you are versus how the outcome actually happens. Yeah, it's a whole thing. I had to get my mind right growing up.
That's amazing. Okay, I want to introduce the two of you properly and then return to that, because I think so many of us in the personal growth world, we aim to improve our mindset, or say like affirmations, I am successful in order to get that vibe going. And so I was thinking, oh, what a gift to have grown up immersed in that vibe. But man, kids can be dumb and mean. No, I wouldn't refer to any specific kid that way, but the overall impact. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing how you transform that. But before we go further, let me, I don't often read the bio I'm sent, but I enjoy yours so much, I'm just going to read it. So, together as co-founders of Cotier Brand, is that how you say it?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, Cotier Brand, Amber and Marx Success help aspiring and seasoned hostesses create remarkable moments and celebrations with their modern party supplies and gift products. Whether you're looking for a unique baby shower game that will spark laughter to needing stylish decorations for your birthday brunch, Cotier has you covered. And actually, my daughter, she loves beautiful things. And so from a young age, even like the butter dish, she would use her fork and her knife to create these beautiful designs in the butter, even though it's going to just be gone soon after. It's not like it was made out of marble, right. But she would do garden scenes, and just everything is so beautiful. And she's currently living in Tel Aviv. She's a member of the Israel Philharmonic Orchestra. And I told her I was going to be interviewing the two of you. And she was just so intrigued. She lit up that anyone has even created such things, not just for fun, but as a business. It's super exciting. Anyway, although the couple didn't come from an entertainment, event planning, or design background, they've been able to build a successful family business that continues to launch innovative products that bring people together. And in our conversation, I want to actually cover a few different things. One is what it's like for the two of you to have a beautiful, robust marriage and be business partners and collaborators in all of the important elements in your life, how that works, and also what it is to create beautiful things in the realm of the home and hostessing, because one of my very favorite books is The Surprising Power of Family Meals. I think relationships and beautiful table settings have a lot more connection with one another than one would normally presume. So, with that as the opening and a very warm welcome, where do you want to go with the conversation with that kind of menu of options to start with?
Well, I mean, I like the way you introduced us. Thank you. That was a very humbling
Yeah.
introduction, first of all. You said something that kind of sparked my attention right away, like what it's like to be in business with one another. And as because we're obviously family, it's her and I. We raised two boys together, 6 and 5,
Hmm.
and it has been somewhat of a whirlwind of activity since the
Yeah.
moment we got married. And really, it has been a combination of uh, kind of resilience, but then also a malleable mindset to kind of roll with the punches that come along with having newborns and obviously the obligations of business and having the ultimate attention and priority on one another. So that has come and that has forced us to change and to view life a certain way. And one thing that I drove home right away, because when things looked out of hand, when we first started, we always talk about the year 2018, where we had just had our second child, Noah. We just moved to Austin, Texas. She's breastfeeding and managing to build product at the exact same time, and I'm working. We're doing all these different things, and uh, I would always tell her, I was like, "This is a season. This is not going to last forever, and it's a season." And when we started, when we viewed things as seasons and having a light at the end of the tunnel, that helped us get through a lot of different things. So that was one thing that came to my mind when you said what it's like to work together. Being together is just one thing. Is a season mindset approach for sure. That's definitely helped me.
Yeah.
Hopefully you as well.
That's so good.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Before you say more, I just want to know, were you married prior to starting the Cotier brand? Like, or has your marriage overlapped the entire time with being co business owners?
Yeah, so we were married before we started the business. So I used to be in the private aviation industry. I used to manage a private terminal called an FBO. And so, although I was really good at my job, I was an FBO manager. It just wasn't fulfilling, to be honest. Just going in every day at work and kind of overseeing customer service and fuel services, it just left more to be desired. And so when we got pregnant with our first child, it was really my opportunity to kind of like rethink my life and like, okay, so what do I want to do? Who do I want to be? Now I'm going to be a mother, and just, how it is when you become a mother, it's just your whole life perspective, everything changes. And so during that period, I decided that, you know what, I want to be an entrepreneur, which is something that I've kind of thought about off and on for years because my parents are both
Hmm.
entrepreneurs. So it wasn't new to me, but I've never actually done it. And so when I shared the idea that I wanted to get into something with Marx, he was just like, okay, well, we'll do some research, see if you can find something that you're passionate about or you think you can really get into. And that's how we kind of got started with Cotier. So we were married for what, maybe 2 years before we
Not even.
started?
Not even. I think that
Maybe a
conversation
year.
happened about a year in for sure.
Yeah.
Like,
We
Okay.
got pregnant right away.
yeah.
Like, we got married September 26th and had our first baby July 26th. So literally 10 months later. So yeah, it was pretty quick.
Pretty quick. Yeah.
Okay, so it's not like you have a whole phase of navigating not working together and then you pivoted it. It was all part of evolving and creating together. And Marx, do you have additional work, or are you full time in Cotier?
I have additional work. Still to this day, right now. But she's full time cotier, and it was kind of just an idea birthed in her to start down this path. This kind of came organically. But if you have somebody in your life that is driven and wants to do something like that, you gotta buy in early. If you're a husband, in my opinion, get involved and support as fast as possible.
Okay, so what happens when Amber has an amazing idea and you're not really sure how it's going to work? That must happen sometimes, does it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot. Well, I think for the most part, it's for me. I'm an engineer by trade, and so Microsoft Excel, numbers, equations. I'm just like, hey, this is what this looks like. This is what's going to happen if we do the X, Y, Z.
He's like, prove demand for the product. I'm like, but it's beautiful. And people would love it, you know?
Yeah, and so we kind of take those two approaches to it, and I've learned that um, I come from a hosting background. I consider myself a great host. Hosting is actually what I think played a part in our own personal love story in terms of bringing her to me, because I was that guy. But you know, in terms of approaching the industry as a whole, I've learned to like kind of trust her intuition a little bit, and some of it's numbers based, and some of it is just like what makes sense for the people that we serve. And so, you know, with our kind of dual approach, we kind of approach it, and we both believe that as long as both of us have the buy-in, that's the direction we go. So
Okay, that's so beautiful. And how is that similar or different from how you navigate things in your marriage?
hmm.
Mm.
So I think you want to go ahead first.
Well, I'm thinking about it.
So you know, in terms of like when we're making business, it actually has a lot of similarities. But I do, I like to keep the concepts of our marriage and like us being in business together. I like the idea of it being mutually exclusive. But when you are, what I found, and when you are in business with your spouse, and especially when things start to kind of scale and become a big deal, because I don't think we ever really saw this happening when like we were first starting it. You have to embrace somewhat of the overlap. There's no way to not have a little bleed over. You know, nobody's like, I'm really mad at you, but I'm putting on my business hat now, and you know, we're gonna have this really authentic discussion. So you're not gonna.
That's why I was having so much trouble answering this question, because I was like, I don't see them as separate. I know that's kind of weird, but it's like business is family
I
and
don't think
family is
it's weird at all. In
No,
fact, I was actually going to ask next, why would you want to keep them separate? Not as a challenge, but just as an inquiry.
Well, I think that was my natural reaction, was because I wanted to be sure that, you know, hey, you're my number one priority. I would never do anything that would compromise our marriage or our union, even in the name of making money or having a really successful business. And even when you're starting off, like disagreeing in business and then having a strong opinion and having to preface your statements like, hey, I'm not coming at you as a wife. I'm not coming at you as a mother. I'm really talking to you as a business partner. You suck right now, you know? And it's just like, it was just like, you try that and it kind of works because it's coming from a genuine place. But as you start getting further down the road, if your business starts, you know, to really have legs and starts to consume more and more of your life and time, I don't find it that sustainable anymore. But the understanding is there that when if one of us offers criticism to the other, it's not a general across the board criticism of you. This is like, for this and what we're trying to accomplish right here, this isn't working for me, or I'd like to do something different, or this makes me feel a certain way.
You know,
So
hearing the two.
I would say that.
Go ahead, Amber.
Well, with him saying that, I think the biggest thing that contributes us to like working in business together so successfully is our communication. So just like any other couple, we argue. You know, we're not always seeing eye to eye, but one thing we do is we just come together and we talk about it, even if it's in its rawest form. I'm like, hey, I wasn't able to, you know, do X, Y, Z because I had to put the kids to bed. And then he peed on himself and I had to give him a bath, you know, and so it's like real life happens. But in business, no one cares if your child peed on themselves and you had to bathe them and all that. So it was really difficult for me because I would constantly just defend myself with things I have to do. But at the same time, I had to find a way to kind of balance it out. But then also once Mark started communicating to me, letting me know like, hey, like I'm not, you know, judging you for certain things that aren't, you know, I really enjoy cooking and doing things like, you know, more of the homemaking things around the home. And so because our business has been going so well, I haven't been able to, I'm just going to, be honest, I haven't been able to cook as much as I would like to. And so I thought like that expectation, my high expectation on that was the same for him. But come to find out, he's just like, I see the hard work you're doing in the business and I totally get it. Can we just go out for pizza and you just like chill, And so like once we start talking about these things and when I'm frustrated, just telling him like, why are you mad? Oh, well, I have this expectation. It's like, well, no, let's honestly look at our life. We're in a season right now. Let's adjust our expectations so we don't go crazy, So I think that has really helped us be fluid in both our personal lives and business, just constantly talking. And some people might see it as like over communication, but it really works for us. We talk about everything and all of our feelings and like what's going on. So there's never any like surprises with us. We know exactly where we are emotionally with each other.
Okay, that's magnificent. Hearing the two of you talk, I'm reminded of the expression. I don't remember actually who said it when I heard it, but basically the idea that you can have it all, just not all at the same time.
Yes.
And that's what the two of you are describing. Okay.
Yeah.
And I also just want to share, in case it's of interest to the two of you and certainly to any listeners, that in the past, I've actually coached couples who work together in such an overlapping way, like the way the two of you are describing, to like maybe wear a piece of jewelry, or if you're not going to be interviewed with video or creating social media content with video, to like you always put on a particular hat when you're having the business conversation, and then it helps distinguish the different roles until it becomes more comfortable and you don't need the external prop, which obviously the two of you are past that. But what you've shared brings me to another question. Have you always communicated and kind of been generous with what's happening inside you? Or is that something that you learned? Like, did both of you grow up with that modeled, or did you need to learn to do it with one another? Because it's not just about expressing it to the other person the way you said, Amber. I know that that means that each of you are rather remarkably self-aware to know how you feel in order to be able to say it to the other one.
Ooh, that's a deep one.
I know.
We talk about this. This is actually...
Yeah. Well, I journal. I will say that. I have to get it all out of my head and put it on paper. And then I'm like, okay, this is silly. Or, oh, no, this makes sense. I was not the best communicator coming into our marriage. No. I was a talk and flee gal, I just like, when it got hot, I was like, I'm out of here. And so he's like, so what are we going to talk about? And I'm like, later. And like later never came until he just like cornered me and was like, okay, we got to talk about this. So.
No, I mean, our relationship started off long distance.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it went back to those times where we had nothing to do but to talk on the phone to really communicate with one another. And that was a good space of about, I want to say, a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
We had the phone and occasional visits because we live about a state apart. Yeah. So that brought to light a lot of different things where I was like, I was the person who called and I'd be like, hey, how was your day? And I'm the type of person that you tell me about your day, I'll remember your coworker's name, your boss's name, and you tell me about the little drama between you and the front desk lady. And I'm like, oh, that's crazy. That's terrible. I can't believe she said that to you. But then, like, when I call you 2 days later, I'm like, yo, how did that work out? What did he do? How are you going to respond to that email? I'm in tune with her life and how she's feeling and things of that nature. And I remember she just would not reciprocate that to me. She could care less about what was going on with me. When we first started out, it was like that, it was like it was a void there. And I remember having one conversation with them, just like, hey, I feel like, you
never ask about my day.
You don't ask about my day. You don't know how I'm doing. You don't know where I'm at. You just kind of give me the spiel, an update on you, and that's about it. And fast forward, long story short, we understood that came from differences in how we were just raised and interacted with our parents and families and things of that nature. Um, and she was never like, the amount of attention that I was giving her in that moment was a little bit, it was a lot for her. And she was just like, she was finally able to, the excitement of being able to express yourself, but then not understanding that that's kind of, you got to give a little bit of that back. You know what I mean? And it was like, it was that. So we kind of had that ironed out kind of coming in. And then when we get married, she understood the type of communicator I was and what was expected of her. But, it was just a difference. But communication has kind of always been key, and I feel as we've both developed, I've learned how to talk and not be overbearing with my communication. She's learned to sort of really try to stop and pause and see where I'm at, and so that's kind of what we kind of built that muscle over time, and the business has definitely pushed us to hurry up with that because there's deadlines and all the really important things that have to get done despite where we might be at personally with one another, and so.
You should tell her the story about how we had an important meeting with the big retailer and we just got into a big argument.
Yeah,
then we just got on the phone and
we had switched hats really hard. It felt really disingenuous with the two of us. But then we kind of looked at each other afterwards, we kind of did that, and I'm glad we realized how insignificant what it was that we were going through. It was kind of small. We really just wanted a breakthrough really bad, and that call ended up being it. And it was just like, I'm glad we hung on just long enough, and it kind of just washed over the feelings. We gave each other, I remember giving a big hug afterwards, and just, I'm sorry, we let that kind of get ahead of us, and it's a journey. I don't proclaim to be an expert of any type or kind, but communication is a muscle that you have to keep developing, and it's been a journey for us.
Yeah.
It's amazing because, of course, you can't schedule an important meeting with a big retailer as a method for getting breakthroughs when you have difficulties. That isn't really a sustainable method. But what I hear when you say that is that meeting had the two of you go right into collaboration mode, and finding something to collaborate on. That is a repeatable way that you can, not for big issues that really need to be worked through, but when something has come up and is just sort of emotionally stuck, collaborating absolutely can create the breakthrough and the ease. It's just so lovely to hear the two of you talk. And there is one question that I ask all of my guests, and it's based on my conviction that I think marriage is the ultimate vehicle for personal growth, that marriage is our best opportunity to become more whole and well-rounded. And so I'd love to ask, maybe I'll ask you first, Amber, what have you learned about yourself as a result of being married to Marx?
Ooh. I love that question because when I first got married, I was like, okay, I'm gonna be learning all about my husband and what's it like and being a wife and that. No, I learned more about myself than I ever did about Marx. So, gosh, when it comes to it, I would say the biggest thing I learned about myself was I was more emotional than I thought I was. I'm typically a really kind of even-keeled, chill person, but man, these husbands know how to push your buttons. And I had triggers I didn't even know were triggers, and it was just crazy. So I found out I was an extremely emotional person, and so being through this marriage has really taught me how to just be more emotionally mature and okay, just stop. Think about how you tell your children, think about what you're going to say before you say it, so all those types of things. So I would say that's been the biggest thing for me in our relationship because I just never really expressed my emotions a lot growing up. And my family, I come from a musician family. So it's, a lot of, my mother's a jazz singer and my dad's he's a drummer. And so very loud household, but at the same time, it was kind of everyone was kind of to themselves and doing their own little thing. And so we all kind of thrived in that way. And so being married to Marx, he comes from a very loud household. where they communicate a lot. He's actually half Jamaican, half Haitian. And so they're very expressive. They banter a lot. And so just like us being together, it was a lot for me to like kind of understand of like, you know, I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying right now, but
No, it's beautiful.
essentially what I'm trying to say is I guess I just grew a lot emotionally and learned about myself and just how to feel and how to express myself and how to do it in a way that he can receive it, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you?
No, she hit it on the head because people always ask me. I was one of the first in my friend group to really get married because I was right out of college pretty much. And they're all just like, what have you learned in marriage? I'm like, man, you think you're going to learn a lot about them, but you learn more about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found was like, I don't think I could live with myself, being myself, you know, it's just, I really have grown to appreciate Amber and her temperament and my habits of, you know, I think I lacked a lot of patience before coming into marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I would, marriage has taught me definitely to slow down, be patient, appreciate, and love people the way that they want to be loved, and not necessarily how you view the world. You don't have to force your view on someone else per se. They're going to see things the way that they see it and perceive it the way that they do. And I realized I had a lot of that in me. I'm very logical and very upfront, but then I realized getting into this, like, no, I actually feel a type of way about certain things. I come from a very straightforward athletic background, you know, getting things done, the hardship of adversity and coming through that. No excuses, get things done. Like you kind of how we started, like I'm a success. We don't quit, we get things done, that sort of thing. And you come to marriage and you're just like, wait a minute, there's more to it. There's another aspect of this where you have to be aware and kind of have your sights up and you're caring for not just the physical well-being of somebody but the emotional and spiritual well-being of them as well and mental well-being of them as well. So there's some more aspects that come to that, and I learned that some of the tools I was using to make it by all means and no excuses and stuff weren't exactly the healthiest of tools, you know. So I have to come through and have a lot of patience in regard for how other people might think or how they're wired. So yeah, I think marriage taught me a lot of that, and it's still teaching me a lot of that. You know, even 8 years in now. So
Okay, well,
yeah.
I'm going to be celebrating my 27th wedding anniversary very soon, and I'm very happy to report it still continues to teach me. Like, may it always
Okay.
be. The idea that there's some destination, that there's ever going to be a season, maybe the learning curve isn't quite as steep as it is at the beginning, but when it plateaus off, what do we have to do with one another? Seriously. So, yeah, it will continue to be so. And I am so grateful for the answers you've both given. And there's this kind of underground communication that's happening for me hearing the two of you speak, because I followed you on Instagram and have seen all these beautiful reels and presentations. And I think there's something in your business and products that conveys both the warmth and the precision that the two of you convey when you talk about your relationship and who each of you is. And there's a way in which that is infused into the products. As I was saying before we start recording, I just love your Instagram because seeing the reels of these beautiful presentations with food and plates and glasses and napkins and so forth, it really, I feel both inspired and really calm seeing those. So
Oh.
maybe would you just, I don't know if you have a comment or if anyone has ever said this to you about how you bring this beautiful essence between you into your products, and then let's talk about the products a little bit.
Yeah. So, okay. So first, like I said earlier in the podcast, the brand that we own is Cotier Brand. We're a modern party supply and gift company, and everything we do is about bringing people together. So whether that's infused inside of our tableware, our decorations, or our games, it's all about pouring into those around you to create really engaging and unforgettable moments. One product that we're extremely proud of is Convokins. My husband and I, we invented the world's first conversation starter napkin. So typically you see conversation starters on decks of cards. And so that's cool, but we made it way more interesting and we put it on cocktail napkins to make it fun for dinner parties, family dinner, or cute little date night, with your significant other. I actually have, this hasn't launched yet, so you guys are going to be one of the first to see it.
Yeah, so if
But we
you're
actually have a
listening,
convocation.
you need to
Yeah.
know that you can see this if you watch this on YouTube, but I'm going to describe it. So it's a beautiful box. In fact, if I just look at it, I would think it's a box of stationery rather than a box of napkins, and it's Convokins, Convokins. I love that, like conversation and napkins. And one of the very first questions I have is, are there different prompts on different napkins, or is it the same prompt on every napkin?
Every napkin has its own question.
In that whole
repeat.
box with
No
like
repeat.
50 or 100 or whatever it is, there's a
Napkin.
different prompt on every one?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I would never want to actually use it to, if I spill something, use it to dry things, because I'd want to read every one. And I can see how, oh, what napkin did you get? Almost like knowing what people's fortunes are when they are at a Chinese restaurant and open the cookie. That is so brilliant that there's a different one on every one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Will you read us one or two to get an example?
Oh, for sure. So the first napkin says, "What's the first thing you noticed about me?"
That's amazing, because you might be meeting that night or have known someone for 40 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The goal was to create something that you could use for, like, date nights, anniversaries, or even like, a blind date soiree.
Yeah, amazing.
Right. And another one is there anything you've always wondered about me but have hesitated to ask?
Okay, this is so great.
Yeah, we toy around with this, and we started doing them, curating them for different events. And ultimately, I think the goal for us is definitely to do like collaborations with like personalities, because I think people want to curate the questions based on a common interest of people that they work with, or artists or things like that. So that'll be coming eventually soon.
And here's the last one, a third one. What things do you look forward to each day?
So how did you come up with these? Did you just think about what you would say to one another, or how did you choose your many sayings?
So to come up with these products, it takes a while, and they come from a very real place, right? I think you recognize the authenticity on our page and through our products, because they really are us, and it's our journey in trying to be relevant and remain close to one another and our family, friends, and loved ones. I hate small talk. That's where it really just came from. I find I worked in sales for my entire career, and one of the best things you become good at is small talk. We're going to talk about the weather, and we'll talk about the traffic, but I'd be more interested in why you chose that shirt today, But it's like it comes from that sort of instinct. And I never forget, it was just one day we were brainstorming products. We were really in that mindset, creative mindset, which is really hard to get into. And as you progress into business, you have to get your mind quieted down to that space where you can be creative and actually innovate. And Amber was just like, what if we had a conversation starter game? Because we love conversation starters. But what if they were on a napkin? She's like, I love conversation starters, but everybody has it on a deck of cards. You sit in the middle of the table, and it kind of just becomes a who's going to grab one first, and she would just keep going through the deck. But wouldn't napkins make more sense? You already need to use them, and they can kind of just seamlessly fit into an event. I'm like, I've never thought of that, So getting it manufactured and believing in the product was an entire 1.5 year experience, where it was we were told no, and that it wasn't possible. You should do coasters. So we went down this couple months exploration of doing different coasters. And I remember we were about to start our prototyping, and I was like, Emma, you ready to kick off this prototype? And she's like,
doesn't feel right.
It doesn't feel right. My vision was napkins. I want it on a napkin. And I was like, okay, we got to make it on a napkin. And there began another long search for a manufacturer willing to put 50 different designs into one container. So at the end of the day, we ended up with a beautiful product we decided to call Convokins. And it has been, really humbling and exciting to see people's somewhat reaction to it. We started off with kind of an everyday general event one, and this one is just a permutation of that. We've got um, a couple different types. We have one for weddings, that time between the the ceremony and the reception. I don't know how many you've been to, but that's always awkward
Right,
if you're
that
not involved
cocktail
with the
hour,
wedding.
yes.
So we have that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we have the cocktail hour, and it's specifically designed for weddings, just for guests to get to know one another. I think that's the world's most awkward event. We have these, the couples edition, and then we just launched even our controversy edition, which is all the things you're not supposed to talk about right away when you're first meeting somebody. So these are kind of like, that's our collection of Convokins that we're really proud about.
Well, they're amazing, and I don't know when I'm next going to host a big party, but I absolutely would love to have them. And I just so enjoy the way in which your marriage, your love for one another, your willingness to grow, your partnership and collaboration as entrepreneurs, and also the product themselves all express this same essence. I feel very grateful and honored to experience that. And anyone, whether you're ready to purchase or not, I highly recommend following Amber and Marx on Instagram and TikTok, because they're just beautiful presentations.
Oh, thank
And
you.
in a frenetic world with a lot of sloppiness, it is just kind of heartwarming to see those things. So as we wind up, any last word that you have, Amber? We'll have all the links in the show notes.
Um, yeah, like if there's any couples listening to this that are also in business, I guess my biggest piece of advice to make it work is forgive one another and be patient.
Thank
Yeah.
you. What about you, Mark?
Hmm.
Well, I think that's actually the best piece of advice you can give, is to really forgive and be patient with one another. But I think that I've always, people always ask like, how's it like working with your wife? And I'm like, I think more people should really do this. And I just think that because two is better than one. And I think that's the reason we first got married in the first place, was to share life with somebody. And if you can find a way to navigate these roads with your significant other, there's really not much else you can't do together. So I would love it. Like Amber said, if anybody else is in business out there as a couple, you reach out. We can all use one another, and forgiveness and patience. Let's do it all together.
Yes.
Okay, sounds so good. Thank you both for joining me.
Thank you for having us on.
us.
Welcome to the Intimate Marriage Podcast, where I teach educated, successful couples how to have incredible, passionate relationships so that you can stop compromising and start feeling fully alive in your relationship. I'm Alexandra Stockwell, aka the Intimacy Doctor. I'm a physician, a relationship and intimacy coach, and I'm an intimate marriage expert. My husband and I have been married for 26 years. We have 4 children and full professional lives, and we've created an amazing marriage. I've shown hundreds of couples how to do so as well. So if you want to deepen your understanding of your own relationship and learn to access new heights of emotional, sensual, and erotic intimacy, you're in the right place. I will show you how. Now, let's dive in.